What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be installing wheel spacers on my 3rd gen Tacoma. I got these from Nitro Gear and Axle. I'll have a link to their website in the description. Definitely check them out because they have a ton of parts and a lot of parts for other brands as well. I know there is a huge debate whether wheel spacers are good, are they safe to run, are they not safe, should you not run them? So we're gonna go over our opinions of running wheel spacers throughout this video. Will these wheel spacers make my offset too aggressive? I am running a 0 offset right now, and the wheel spacers that I have are 1.25 inches, if you wanna show those, Bri. They are hub centric, which is a positive. That's something that you wanna look for if you choose to run wheel spacers, because that will, Brian, help me explain that?
Well, it'll make them hub centric. It'll make the rim nice and centered on the hub, therefore no weird wobble, and they're perfectly installed safely. Like, that's the safe way to go. If it doesn't have this ring on here, I wouldn't recommend them.
Yeah.
So everything here is going to line up perfectly with no slop. They're not going to be able to go up and down at all. You don't want just the lugs basically holding it centered. You want the ring in the center to hold it centered.
Right, I was just going to say that if there'll be more play if there's no
exactly
hub centric. So. With the tire off now, I do have a jack stand under there just for safety measures, and there's going to be some steps that I'm not doing in today's video because I know I'm going to have to do some trimming. If you're installing wheel spacers, that's something that you have to keep in mind. How much are you willing to trim? The first thing that I would normally do is take a wire brush just to clean off the hub there, along with all of the bolts, which again, I'll do in another video. You guys will see that coming soon once I have all the trimming done. And then what I would also do or recommend is using Loctite. So you would put Loctite on all of the hub bolts there that these bolts would attach to. With the wire brushing theoretically done, you would go ahead and do this. That would just give it a really clean surface for this to basically go on, I guess you can say. And then from there, we're just going to put all these bolts on, and I would recommend torquing them. What do you think the torque specs would be on these?
Probably 80 to 90 pounds.
Yeah.
But you can double check that on the Google, so easy enough to look up.
Yeah. So with those steps basically out of the way, I will be taking these off today, which is why I'm skipping this step. I don't need to do that if I'm taking these right back off. So we're just going to get all these pretty snug so we can at least move it around in the driveway. Alright, so we are finished up with the front, and we're not going to go over like any trimming or anything like that until we go ahead and finish the rear tire. You can already tell a difference from the side, can't you?
Oh yeah, there's a difference. You said what, 1.25 inches?
It's 1.25 inches, yeah.
We'll show them in just a second.
So we're going to go ahead and turn the truck around, and then we can also test my turning radius so we can see where we have to trim. Going this way, I don't think I should have any rubbing, right?
Yeah. Getting close to the front, but not there. No, you're good.
What do you think about off-road?
It would hit eventually. But I don't know, that's just like that much away, but if it went up higher, it would definitely hit. Okay. So you're good that way at least. Other way, I don't know if we're gonna be as good just because.
Start turning.
So, right about there. Actually, you're not, you're still good. Now you're on it now. Yeah, the cab mount was smushing up your treads.
Yeah.
So, definitely gonna rub there.
So that's probably my max turning right now?
About, which that's almost lock.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I've got a couple more turns.
Alright.
Alright, so now it's time to show you guys some before and afters, and just from back here, Bri, I really like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it makes it look so much nicer. So I do have these fender flares, which are a lot larger than the stock ones, and once I did those, the tire was actually like right on the inside of these flares. So hopefully you can see it on camera here, how they poke out just a little bit. I didn't want anything like crazy sticking out. And then over here, it's kind of just flush with it. That's a pretty big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Even on the rear here, so let's go and walk to the rear. Because it sticks out a lot with my rear bumper now, which just makes it look a lot better. So it looks more uniform than on this side over here where there's nothing. So with one side of the truck now installed, we're not going to get to the other side because as I've Alright.
We have not done normal videos of this in a while. We've been pretty busy.
Yeah, doing
Alright.
Other stuff.
Back to the video.
Yeah, so we're not going to do the other side because I know I have to do trimming up front, which means I have to do the cab mount chop. That's something that a lot of Tacoma owners do, is cutting that cab chop, and that's going to be coming soon. We're going to try to do that ourselves. The only thing is welding.
I think we know some people.
Yeah, we might know some people to weld. So we're going to get to that, which is why we're not doing the other side. But now we kind of just want to go over the pros and cons to installing wheel spacers. A lot of people think they're unsafe, or you just shouldn't run them. Is it a cheap way to give you a little bit more aggressive of a tire? And obviously you have your opinion. For us, I think running wheel spacers is safe if you do it right. So if you do the Loctite, you torque the bolts down to the proper specs, and you check them pretty regularly. I'd say maybe every time you rotate your tires, or anytime you have a tire off, just make sure that you check to see if anything is loose or not. So it's really just kind of adding general maintenance to your vehicle, having a wheel spacer.
Yeah, and if they are hub-centric, like we said, you're not going to get that slop in the wheel, so there's not really too much extra pressure on the wheel bearing. Now, if you have a really old vehicle and you put wheel spacers on, that is making more stress on the wheel bearings, or the hub bearings, whatever.
Yeah.
But honestly, you're just not going to have an issue with any relatively new car. It takes a lot to destroy those. In my experience working at a car dealer, we only had one vehicle. Happened to be a Tacoma, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was a silver one.
Okay.
It was an 06. It had like 130,000 or 160,000 miles on it, and one front wheel bearing was a little loose. Not even crazy, so a little bit.
You don't know how long they were on, though.
That thing was a little beat, so they probably beat the crap out of that truck anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
that was the only time I ever had a car that had that, and I've been with hundreds of cars over the years.
the only thing I would not recommend is doing a crazy wheel spacer, like something like 40 millimeters wide. I mean, this is 1.25 inches, which, what's the math on a millimeter? That's 20 millimeters, 25 millimeters? Somewhere
around there.
Somewhere around that range. So if you're doing something crazy like 40s, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. But talking about the specs on my truck for my wheels, adding the wheel spacer, I have a 17x9. My offset is +0. So adding that 1.25 inches technically moves it to like a negative
25-ish.
Well, if it's a 20 millimeter space.
Whatever the millimeter
Yeah.
is.
So it's around negative 20, if you want to call it that, compared to a wheel that has negative offset like that. So I'm not really out of the realm of doing anything too crazy. Now, of course, you could get a wheel that has that and eliminate the wheel spacer, but...
that still is always the recommended way. Like on my car, the Supra, I have the proper offset. They're more aggressive offset than stock. They're wider rims too, so they do stick out farther, but my back spacing is still the same as stock because they're wider.
Yeah.
So, with my cars, performance cars, I would never run wheel spacers just because I need to be going 130 miles an hour around a track, not having issues. And I would not track wheel spacers. I wouldn't do that. Some people, a lot of people do and have no issues. When I had the Genesis on track, same on the brakes, my front wheels shook a little bit. So I wouldn't do that. But daily driving, off-roading,
it's not really gonna...
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so the wheel spacers are good, and if and when I decide to change the wheels, but for now, it's a great solution to give you that look that you're going for.
Yeah.
And without having to go with a wider tire, too. My tires are only 11.5 wide. My previous tires were 12.5 wide. But if I had kept that tire and done the wheel spacer, my chopping or my trimming would be a lot more, and then off-roading, it would probably rub a lot more, too. So not only do I have a lighter tire, but I have a tire that's going to fit in the wheel wells when we go off-road, too. Yeah. So it's kind of the best of both worlds there, mixing it just a little bit. I don't know what else to go.
But yeah, comment down below, what is your guys' experience with wheel spacers? Because it's kind of a 50-50. Half the people will tell you they're horrible, they'll ruin your wheel bearings and they're unsafe. The other half, have run for 10 years on a car and no issues. So
Yeah.
we have never had an issue. The only issue I would say is on the track. I wouldn't recommend them on the front at least.
My red. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, other than that though, I
Yeah.
don't see an issue.
I was gonna say
as long as they're these good ones. If they're the spacers that have no new studs, where you're using the stock studs,
Yeah.
if those are too thick, you're eliminating a lot of the thread that's on the actual like nut and everything. That can be unsafe, so I wouldn't recommend those.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I ran them on my red Tacoma too, and we had no issues with those. Same size too, 1.25 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, talking briefly about wheel spacers. Definitely subscribe and stay tuned for future videos on the Tacoma, because I have a lot of plans for it, and this is just the beginning. Test fitting the wheel spacers. I have trimming to do. I have some other projects that require taking the tires back off the truck. So make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned for those videos. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. We'll see you guys in the next video.